The room was dark. Only a single blue light shone on the center table. Around it, 6 alien historians sat in silence. Their faces were hidden in the shadows, but their eyes glowed faintly. In front of them was a small, black device. It looked ordinary, but everyone in the room knew it was not. The device carried a recording, a piece of history thought to be lost forever. No one knew exactly where it had come from. It had appeared in an old cargo shipment, hidden inside a broken metal crate. The crate itself was hundreds of years old, dating back to a time of great wars across the galaxy. The delivery crew who found it had sold it quietly to the historians, not realizing its value. Now, it rested in the middle of the table, waiting to be played. The leader of the group, an old alien named Varen, spoke first. "We are not supposed to have this," he said in a low, rough voice. "If the council finds out, they will take it from us, and we will never know the truth." Another historian, younger and impatient, leaned forward. "Then let's play it. The longer we wait, the more dangerous it becomes." Varen looked around the table. No one spoke against it. Slowly, he pressed his hand against the device. A soft click echoed through the room, and the table's surface lit up. A projection appeared, a battlefield covered in dust and smoke. The first thing they saw was destruction. Alien war machines lay broken, their metal frames twisted and burning. Craters covered the ground, and dark smoke rose into the sky. The air seemed heavy, even in the projection, as if the very memory of the place carried weight. A cold silence filled the room. "Which war is this?" one of the historians whispered. Varen narrowed his eyes. "I do not know." In the projection, shadowy figures moved through the dust. At first they were hard to see. Shapes in the fog, quick and purposeful. The aliens leaned closer, trying to make them out. The shapes walked upright, carrying weapons. They moved in small groups, watching, every angle covering each other as they advanced. The younger historian frowned. "They are soldiers, but not any species I know." The figures became clearer. Their armor looked strange, not the sleek metal of modern armies, but heavy plates and cloth. Their weapons were old-fashioned, like those used hundreds of years ago, yet they fought with perfect precision. Every movement was sharp, controlled. They fired only when certain, and every shot found its target. One of the historians laughed softly. "This is fake. No primitive army could move like this. These tactics, they are too advanced." But Varen did not laugh. His gaze stayed fixed on the projection, his face growing pale. Something about the soldiers seemed familiar, though he could not yet name it. Then, one of the soldiers turned. The historians froze. The soldier's face was clear now, pale skin, short hair, eyes like steel. A human. For a long moment, no one spoke. Then the youngest historian broke the silence. "Impossible. Humans were not there. Not in this war." Varen's voice was quiet. "No. They were not supposed to be." The projection continued. The humans moved through the battlefield, pushing forward against an enemy far larger than themselves. Alien war machines tried to crush them, but the humans fought with such determination that even the most powerful weapons seemed useless. They did not retreat. They did not slow down. And the enemy, whoever they were, began to fall back. "Where is this?" asked one historian. "What planet?" The old leader shook his head. "I do not know. And that makes it worse." The soldiers in the recording advanced until they disappeared into the smoke. The battlefield was left in ruins, littered with the wreckage of alien machines. The historians thought it was over. But then the image changed. The view shifted as if the camera, wherever it was, had been noticed. A figure appeared in the distance, walking toward it. Step by step, the figure grew clearer. It was the same human soldier as before, his face calm, but his eyes locked on the lens. The historians leaned forward. None of them breathed. The soldier stopped only a few meters away. He raised his weapon slightly, not to fire, but as if testing, the weight in his hands. Then, very slowly, he pointed directly at the camera. The room filled with static. The image shook violently, breaking into flashes of white and black. A sharp ringing sound filled their ears. When the picture cleared again, the soldier was gone. The projection ended. The table went dark. No one moved. The silence was heavier than before. Finally, Veyron spoke. "We will not tell anyone about this. Not yet." The younger historian looked confused. "Why? This is just strange. Maybe important, but why hide it?" Veyron's eyes glimmered faintly in the dark. "Because what we just saw," he paused as if the words were dangerous, "was not just a battle. It was a moment in history that should not exist." No one argued. Somewhere deep inside, they all felt the same unease. The recording had shown more than an old war. It had shown something impossible, something dangerous, and they all knew this was only the beginning. The room stayed silent long after the recording ended. The historians sat still, as if the air itself had turned heavy. The image of the human soldier pointing at the camera burned in their minds. None of them had ever seen such confidence in the middle of a battlefield, not from their own people, not from any warrior race they had studied. Veyron broke the silence first. "This changes everything," he said quietly. The youngest historian, a sharp-eyed alien named Coril, leaned forward. "It could be fake," he said quickly. "We know humans have exaggerated their history before. They tell stories to make themselves look stronger." Another, older historian shook his head. "No. Look closely at the details. The ruins, the enemy machines, the way they move. This is not staged. No fake would bother with such accuracy." Coril frowned but said nothing more. The truth was, even he could not explain what they had just seen. Veyron slowly tapped the table. The device lit up again, and the projection returned. This time, paused in the middle of the recording. He moved the image forward, slowly, frame by frame. Smoke rolled across the battlefield, shapes moved in the distance. Then, once more, the humans appeared. But now the historians studied their faces. The humans were different from what they expected. They were not shouting or screaming in fear like soldiers often did in the heat of battle. Their expressions were calm, almost cold. Their eyes scanned the battlefield without hesitation. They moved like hunters who already knew where their prey was hiding. "They don't fight like soldiers," whispered one historian. "They fight like executioners." Coril felt a chill. He tried to dismiss it. Maybe they were just well trained. Veyron turned to him. "Do you know what year this battle took place?" Coril shook his head. "This was long before humans were considered a military power," Veyron said. "At that time, they were still seen as primitive, weak. They should not even have been here." The projection continued. One of the humans stopped for a moment, looking off to the side. His helmet was cracked, his face streaked with dirt. Even through the grainy image, the historians could see his eyes, sharp, focused, almost glowing in the smoke. Then it happened again. The man turned toward the camera just for an instant before moving on, the same soldier as before, the same calm expression. "This is impossible," murmured the older historian. "I know this battlefield. I have studied it for decades. No record, no witness, no archive ever mentioned humans being here." Coril stared at the soldier's face. Something about it was wrong, not just its presence in the war, but the way he looked at the camera. It was not the look of someone surprised by it. It was the look of someone who already knew it was there. "Perhaps," Coril said slowly, He was expecting to be recorded. Veyrin's eyes narrowed. Why would he expect that? The youngest historian had no answer. The projection shifted again. The humans fought through thick waves of enemy troops, their movements so clean and efficient it looked rehearsed. Alien war machines exploded in the background, metal flying in all directions. Through the smoke, more human faces appeared. Men and women all carrying the same sharp, unshaken expression. The group sat in uneasy silence, watching. Finally, one of the historians could no longer hold back. Veyrin, if this is real, then history is wrong. This means humans defeated one of the most feared armies in the galaxy, alone. Veyrin gave a slow, grim nod. Yes, and someone erased it. Coral's voice grew tense. Why erase a victory? The leader looked him directly in the eyes. Because the truth might scare those in power. Imagine the Council knowing that humans, even at their weakest, could destroy a fleet like that. Imagine the panic. The thought hung in, the air like a shadow. No one wanted to imagine it, yet they all did. The smoke in the projection swirled, and for a moment the image glitched. Static flickered across the screen, distorting the battlefield. When it cleared, the humans were gone. Only burning alien wreckage remained. Coral exhaled slowly. Where did they go? Veyrin's face darkened. We will find out. Before anyone could speak, the device suddenly buzzed. A small icon flashed on its surface, a symbol no one recognized. Then, faintly, a new sound came from the speakers. It was a voice, a human voice. The historians stared at each other in shock. The words were faint, broken by static, but the tone was unmistakable. Calm, cold, controlled. Stop watching, the voice said. The projection shut off instantly. The room was swallowed by darkness once more. For several moments, no one moved. No one dared to breathe too loudly. Veyrin slowly stood. His voice was low, almost a whisper. We need to know the truth, but we may not survive it. Coral felt. A chill crawled down his spine. The human faces in the mist were no longer just part of an old recording. They felt present, watching. Somehow he knew. The real danger had not yet begun. The next day, the historians met again in the same dark room. None of them had slept well. The human faces from the recording haunted their thoughts, and the strange voice telling them to stop watching echoed in their minds. Still, Veyrin had called them back. He was determined to see more. The black device sat in the middle of the table once more. It looked harmless, but everyone in the room now knew better. Veyrin's long fingers hovered over it. We will continue, he said, firmly. But we must be ready for anything. Coral shifted uncomfortably. What if the warning was real? Veyrin's eyes were cold. If it was real, then it means the truth is dangerous. And that is exactly why we must know it. Without waiting for more argument, he pressed the device. The projection came to life again, and the battlefield returned. The dust was thicker this time, swirling around the camera like a living thing. Through the haze, flashes of light cut across the sky. Weapons fire, bright and deadly. Explosions shook the ground. The alien historians could almost feel the tremors beneath their feet. The humans were there again, moving through the chaos. Their armor was old and dented, their weapons simple by modern standards. Yet they fought like a storm. Every movement was sharp and exact, every bullet a perfect hit. They wasted no time, no motion. The historians leaned closer, watching in disbelief. The humans were outnumbered at least 10-1, yet they pressed forward without hesitation. Alien war machines towered over them, massive constructs of steel and plasma. But the humans didn't hide or retreat. Instead, they split into small teams, circling their targets, attacking from angles the enemy didn't expect. Koril's voice was quiet but full of awe. They fight, like they already know the enemy's next move. Varen nodded slowly. As if they've fought this battle before. One of the historians shook his head. No, that's impossible. But the evidence was right in front of them. A human soldier would duck before a shot was even fired, move left just before an explosion hit, or shoot exactly where an enemy was about to appear. It wasn't luck. It was knowledge. In the middle of the battle, the same soldier from before appeared again. The man with the calm eyes. His helmet was gone now, revealing short, dark hair and a face streaked with dust and blood. But his movements were as steady as before. He raised his weapon and fired 3 shots in quick succession. All 3 hit different enemies at different distances. Perfect kills. The historians exchanged uneasy glances. There was no way to explain it. Then something strange happened. The camera's perspective shifted, as if whoever had been recording began to move forward, stepping into the battlefield. The view closed in on the humans, letting the historians see them in even greater detail. Koril frowned. Wait. The camera, it's not on a drone. It's too steady for that. Someone is carrying it. Varen's eyes narrowed. Then the humans are letting themselves be filmed. The battle raged on. The humans pushed forward, destroying enemy lines with precision. But what shocked the historians most was the enemy itself. These were not minor raiders or weak colonies. These were soldiers from one of the galaxy's most feared empires of the past. Their weapons were advanced, their armor strong, yet against the humans, it didn't matter. This shouldn't be possible, whispered one historian. No known species could win this fight with such old technology. Varen's voice was low and hard. Except humans. They watched as the humans reached the heart of the battlefield, a massive alien command unit surrounded by shields and heavy cannons. The historians expected them to stop, to take cover, to plan. Instead, the humans charged. It was madness. Plasma fire rained down on them. The ground erupted in flames, but somehow they moved through it untouched. Their bullets tore through shield generators. Their grenades destroyed the cannons. In minutes, the alien command was reduced to rubble. The enemy broke. What had been an unshakable army now scattered in panic. The humans pressed forward, relentless, giving no chance for retreat. Koril felt his throat tighten. They just defeated a full command unit in less than 10 minutes. Varen did not answer. His gaze was locked on the soldier with the calm eyes, who now stood in the middle of the ruins, staring into the smoke. Slowly, the soldier turned his head toward the camera again. This time, he did not just point. He took a step closer. The projection flickered. The image bent and twisted, as if the battlefield itself was trying to pull the viewer inside. A loud, low sound began to build. Not an explosion, but something deeper, almost like a heartbeat. The soldier's voice came through, clear and sharp. "You shouldn't be here." The screen went black. The room was silent except for the historian's breathing. Koril's hands were trembling. He spoke to us." Varen's voice was like stone. "No, he spoke to whoever is watching, and that means—" He didn't finish the sentence. He didn't have to. They all understood. The humans in the recording knew they were being seen, and they wanted the watchers to know it. The room felt colder than before. The black screen in front of the alien historians reflected their uneasy faces. The soldiers' last words still echoed in their minds. "You shouldn't be here." No one wanted to speak first, but the silence was becoming unbearable. Finally, Koril broke it. "He knew," he whispered. He knew someone was watching. Varen didn't answer. He simply reached forward and pressed the device again. At first, nothing happened. The black screen remained, and the device gave off a faint humming sound. Then, suddenly, the projection came back. But it was not the same battlefield. Instead, the image was twisted, as if the recording had been damaged. Colors bled into one another. Shapes shifted in and out of focus. The sound was warped. The screams and gunfire replaced by a deep, pulsing tone. One of the older historians leaned forward. "This is not the same segment we saw before." "No," Vayreen said slowly. "This is something hidden." The image flickered again, and for a brief moment, something clear appeared on the screen. A set of numbers and symbols flashing in the corner. They were gone in less than a second. "Pause it," Coriel said quickly. Vayreen froze the projection. The group leaned in, staring at the screen. The numbers were strange, but they weren't random. One of the historians, a quiet female named Sira, recognized them first. "These are coordinates," she said softly. "Old star coordinates, from before the Council changed the mapping system." Coriel's brow furrowed. "Where do they lead?" Sira hesitated. "To a dead system. A place that was destroyed in the early wars. Nothing should be there." The image jerked forward again before anyone could respond. This time, the battlefield returned. But it was different. The bodies and wreckage were gone. The ground was bare. The sky was empty. It was as if the battle had never happened. "That's impossible," one historian muttered. "This is the same place, but..." Years later, the projection began to shake violently. Static lines cut across the screen, breaking the picture into fragments. The deep, pulsing tone grew louder, almost painful to the ears. Then the soldier appeared again. He was standing alone in the middle of the empty field, looking straight at the camera. His calm eyes were the same, but there was something different in his stance. It was heavier, more deliberate. The sound cut out completely. The soldier raised his hand, and slowly he pointed to the ground at his feet. As the historians watched, a symbol began to form in the dirt, the same coordinates they had just seen. The projection zoomed in, forcing the historians to look closely. Then, with no warning, the image changed again. The screen went white, then black. A sharp burst of static made several of the historians flinch. When the picture returned, it was no longer the battlefield. It was a live feed. Coriel's breath caught. That's here." The projection showed the room they were sitting in. The same table, the same chairs, the same dark shadows. But the feed was not coming from any of their own devices. Something else was watching them. One by one, each historian in the projection turned to look at the camera. Except, it wasn't them. It was like looking at versions of themselves that were slightly wrong. Shadows instead of people, outlines instead of faces. Then, in the projection, the door to the room slowly opened. In the real room, the door was still closed. The historians froze. No one dared to move. In the projection, a figure stepped inside. It was the human soldier. The image flickered again, and the live feed vanished, replaced by the battlefield once more. The soldier was gone. Only smoke remained. The projection ended. With a loud, sharp click, the device went dark. No one spoke. No one moved. The silence in the room was thick and suffocating. Finally, Vayreen leaned back in his chair. His voice was calm, but his eyes betrayed a deep unease. "It seems," he said slowly, "that the coordinates are not just part of the recording. They are an invitation." Sira's voice shook. "Or a trap." Vayreen nodded. "Perhaps both." Coriel swallowed hard. "You're not seriously thinking of going there, are you?" Vayreen looked at the device, then at the others. "We've already seen too much to walk away. If this is history that was erased, we must uncover it. And if humans are involved..." He let the sentence hang in the air. The group exchanged uneasy glances. Deep down, they all knew what was coming next. The coordinates were burned into their minds, impossible to forget. Somewhere out there, on a dead world, answers were waiting for them. But so was something else, something that already knew they were coming. The old transport ship moved silently through the void. Its engines were steady, but every creak and hum seemed louder than usual. Inside, the 6 alien historians sat strapped into their seats, their eyes fixed on the black window of space ahead. None of them spoke much during the journey. The coordinates from the recording were set into the ship's navigation system, and with every passing minute, they drew closer to a place that no one in the galaxy dared to visit. The system had no name anymore, only a number in ancient archives. Long ago, it had been home to several colonies and trade stations, but during the early wars it had been wiped out. Official records called it uninhabitable and lifeless. Even scavengers avoided it, yet here they were, heading straight for it. Coral broke the silence first. "I still think this is madness," he muttered. "We are chasing a human soldier from a centuries-old recording into a dead system. There's nothing here." Vayreen didn't look at him. His gaze stayed fixed on the star chart. "We will see." Hours passed. The stars outside shifted, and finally the ship's computer spoke in a cold, mechanical voice. "Approaching target. Coordinates." Through the front window, a dark planet came into view. It hung in space like a black stone, with no sunlight reflecting off its surface. Thick clouds swirled around it, and faint storms flashed deep within the atmosphere. Sierra leaned forward. "Sensors show no life, no energy, not even old satellites." The ship descended slowly, breaking through the heavy clouds. Below, the surface, was a wasteland. Cracked ground stretched to the horizon. Mountains of rusted metal stood like dead giants, the remains of war machines that had long since stopped moving. The air was heavy with dust. They landed near what had once been a battlefield. As the landing ramp lowered, a cold wind swept inside. The historians stepped out, their boots crunching against the dry ground. "This place," one of them whispered, "it feels wrong." The ruins were massive. Broken alien tanks lay scattered, their armor torn open. Old trenches ran like scars across the land. Towers of black stone, half collapsed, jutted into the dark sky. The air was silent except for the faint whistle of the wind. Vayreen activated a scanner. The display flickered. "Strange," he said. "No power, no signals. But there's an energy reading not far from here." Sierra checked her own device. "That's impossible. The reading matches the one from the recording, the exact same as when the battle happened." They followed the signal, moving deeper into the ruins. The sky grew darker as the clouds thickened. Somewhere in the distance, thunder rolled. Coral glanced around nervously. "Do you notice something?" he said quietly. "There are no animal bones, no plants, no signs of life at all." No one answered. After nearly an hour of walking, they reached the source of the energy reading, a half-buried metal structure. Its shape was strange, almost like a bunker, but the design didn't match any known alien race. The metal was scarred and burned, but it still hummed faintly under their hands. Vayreen brushed away the dirt from the entrance. There was no door, only a narrow opening leading into darkness. A cold draft seeped out. "We go in," Vayreen said. Inside, the air was even colder. The walls were covered in marks, deep scratches as if something had clawed at the metal. The further they walked, the louder the hum became. At the end of the tunnel, they entered a wide chamber. In the center was an object that made them all stop. It was a human helmet. The metal was old, dented, and scorched, but the visor was still intact. Dust covered most of it, except for one thing: a smear of fresh, wet blood. Sierra stepped back. This can't be fresh. No human has been here in centuries. Before anyone could respond, the hum stopped. The silence was sudden and heavy, pressing on their ears. Then, from somewhere deep in the ruins, came the sound of footsteps, slow, steady, getting closer. The historians froze. The tunnel behind them was empty, but the steps kept coming, echoing against the metal walls. Veyrin's hand went to his sidearm, something he hadn't touched in years. The footsteps stopped just beyond the chamber's entrance. For a long moment, there was nothing. Then, in the darkness, two faint eyes appeared, human eyes. The voice was calm, cold, and exactly the same as in the recording. "You shouldn't be here." The chamber lights flickered once and went out. The chamber was swallowed in darkness. The only sound was the slow, cold breathing that came from the tunnel entrance. The historians stood frozen, their eyes straining to see through the black. The human eyes they had glimpsed only seconds before were gone, as if they had never been there. Coril's voice trembled. "Veyrin, what was that?" Veyrin did not answer. He reached into his belt and pulled out a small light. The beam cut through the darkness, revealing the tunnel ahead. It was empty. Dust floated in the air, undisturbed. There were no footprints, no signs of movement. But the sound of footsteps still echoed faintly, as if coming from far away and close at the same time. Sierra gripped her scanner tightly. "I'm picking up movement, all around us." Coril's eyes darted to the walls. "Movement? There's nothing here." Sierra's voice was tense. "Not nothing. Something tall, upright, many of them." They left the chamber quickly, their boots crunching against the old metal floor. The narrow tunnel felt tighter now, like the walls were pressing in. The hum of the strange structure had not returned, only the low whisper of the wind outside. When they stepped out into the ruins, the light from their lamps stretched long shadows across the ground. At first, everything was still. Then, out of the corner of her eye, Sierra saw something move. It was fast, just a flicker in the mist. But it was shaped like a person. "Over there!" she called, spinning toward it. The others turned their lights in the same direction, but the space was empty. Only broken metal and shattered stone. They began walking back toward the landing site, but the feeling of being watched grew stronger. With every step, the clouds overhead swirled, blocking what little light came from the sky. The ruins seemed to twist and shift in the shadows. Coril's voice was barely a whisper. "I think they're following us." Veyrin stopped. "Then don't run. Running will only make us look like prey." A faint sound came from behind them. Not footsteps this time, but the low murmur of voices. Human voices, speaking in a language none of the historians understood. The tone was calm, steady, almost like soldiers giving quiet orders. They turned in a slow circle, shining their lights in every direction. That was when they saw it. A figure was standing between two ruined walls, half hidden in the fog. It was tall, wearing old human armor, the same kind from the recording. The helmet's visor reflected their light, but the soldier didn't move. Veyrin took a cautious step forward. "Who are you?" he called out. No answer. The soldier simply lifted his weapon, not aiming, just holding it ready. Then, as if the mist itself swallowed him, he was gone. The historians' hearts pounded. They moved faster now, trying to reach the ship, but the shadows around them kept shifting. Sometimes they caught glimpses of more soldiers, standing still, watching silently from a distance, always in the corner of their vision, never long enough to catch fully in the light. Sierra's scanner beeped rapidly. "They're everywhere," she said, panic creeping into her voice. 20, no, 30, closing in." The voices grew louder, surrounding them. The words were still strange, but the tone had changed. Sharper now, more urgent. Veyrin gritted his teeth. "Keep moving." They crossed what had once been the main battlefield. Here, the ground was uneven, littered with the remains of long-dead war machines. For a brief moment, the fog shifted and they could see far ahead. That was when they froze. Line of human soldiers stood across the path, blocking their way to the ship. Their armor was battered, their weapons old, but their stance was perfect, a formation straight from a military drill. None of them spoke. None of them moved. "Koril," whispered. "They're the same ones from the recording." The soldiers didn't advance, but they didn't step aside either. It was as if they were waiting for something. Then slowly the formation split in the middle. Through the gap, another figure stepped forward. The same calm-eyed soldier they had seen in the recording, and again in the chamber. He stopped only a few meters away, his weapon hanging at his side. "You shouldn't be here," he said. The same words as before, but this time his voice was louder, stronger. The mist curled around him like smoke. Before Veyrin could reply, the ground beneath them shook. A deep, low rumble rolled through the ruins. The soldiers didn't flinch. The calm-eyed man simply stepped back into the fog, and the line of soldiers closed again. The rumble grew louder, turning into a roar that came from beneath the earth. Then, as quickly as they had appeared, the soldiers were gone. Only the mist remained. The historian stood frozen in the silence that followed, their minds racing. Whatever had been following them wasn't gone. It was only waiting. The ground was still trembling when they reached the ridge near their ship. The mist clung to the ruins like it was alive, curling around broken towers and shattered walls. Every shadow seemed to breathe. Veyrin stopped to scan the horizon. "The soldiers, they're gone," he said, but even he didn't sound sure. Sira shook her head. "No, they're still here. They're just letting us think we're safe." Koril's breathing was heavy. "Then why not attack?" No one had an answer. They moved carefully toward the landing site, their boots slipping on wet stone. The ship was only a few hundred meters away when Sira's scanner gave a strange pulse. Not the rapid beeping from before, but one single, deep tone. Her eyes widened. "There's something underground, huge, and it's moving." They froze. The rumble beneath their feet was back, stronger now. Dust fell from the broken walls around them. Somewhere in the mist, they heard the sound of ancient metal grinding against stone. Veyrin gestured toward a large, half-buried structure ahead. "That's the source." It looked like an old war bunker, its surface covered in centuries of rust. The massive door was split down the middle, as if something had forced it open from inside. Against his better judgment, Veyrin walked toward it. Sira and Koril followed reluctantly, their lights cutting through the dark entrance. Inside, the air was heavy, almost hard to breathe. They stepped into a long corridor lined with strange markings. The walls were smooth, black metal, not the same material as the ruins above. This place was older, much older. Koril ran his hand over one of the markings. "These symbols, they're human." Sira frowned. "That's impossible. Humans weren't supposed to be here until—" She stopped, realizing what she was about to say. At the far end of the corridor, a faint light flickered. They approached slowly, every step echoing in the silence. The light came from a large chamber, but what they saw inside made them stop in shock. In the center of the room stood a massive glass pod, still glowing faintly with power. Inside, suspended in some kind of fluid, was a human soldier. He was alive. The armor he wore was the same as in the recording. His face was calm, his eyes closed, but his chest rose and fell slowly. Koril's voice shook. "He's been here for hundreds of years?" Veyrin stepped closer, looking at the readouts on the side of the pod. "The systems are still running." This isn't a corpse. This is a soldier in stasis." Before they could speak further, the pod's lights began to change, from soft white to deep red. The low hum of the machinery grew louder. Sierra's scanner beeped wildly. Something's waking him up. The soldier's eyes snapped open. They were sharp, cold, and alive with the same calm power as in the recording. He looked at each of them in silence, as if measuring their worth. Then, with a slow, deliberate motion, he placed his hand on the inside of the glass. The pod opened with a hiss of escaping air. Steam rolled across the floor as the soldier stepped out. His boots made no sound. None of the historians dared move. The soldier's voice was deep and steady. "This world is not yours," Veyrin swallowed. "We're historians. We mean no harm." The soldier tilted his head slightly, studying them. "Historians?" His gaze moved to Sirah's scanner, then back to Veyrin. "You came because of the recording." It wasn't a question. Sirah's voice was barely a whisper. "Yes. We found it." The soldier's eyes narrowed. "Then you have seen the beginning." Coral took a nervous step back. "The beginning of what?" The soldier's expression didn't change. "The war that never ended." Before they could ask more, the rumble under the ground shook the chamber violently. Dust rained from the ceiling. From the tunnel behind them came the sound of heavy boots, many boots. The soldier looked toward the noise, then back at them. "If you want to leave this place alive, you will follow me, and you will do exactly as I say." Without waiting for a reply, he turned and walked into the shadows beyond the chamber. Veyrin glanced at Sirah and Coral. "We don't have a choice." They followed, the sound of marching soldiers closing in behind them. The soldier moved quickly, his steps silent even on the cracked metal floor. The three historians struggled to keep up, their lights swinging wildly in the dark. Behind them, the sound of boots was growing louder. It was not the sound of a small patrol. It was an army. Sirah risked a glance over her shoulder. Shadows were moving in the corridor, tall figures with glowing eyes. They did not move like living beings. "They're not alive," she whispered. The soldier didn't slow. "They are echoes, soldiers from a war long past, but they fight as if it never ended." Coral's voice shook. "If they're dead, how can they walk?" "They were never allowed to rest," the soldier replied simply. They turned a corner and entered a wider hall. Strange banners hung from the ceiling, their colors faded, but still showing the same emblem from the recording, a human emblem, Veyrin. Glanced at the soldier. "You fought here, didn't you?" The soldier's eyes stayed forward. "I fight here still." The ground trembled again, and the distant marching grew louder. Sierra's scanner lit up with dozens of red signals closing. "In from all directions. They're surrounding us," she warned. The soldier finally stopped in front of a massive sealed door. His hand shot out to a panel, pressing a sequence of buttons too fast for them to follow. The door opened with a deep, metallic groan. Inside. "Now!" They rushed through. The door slammed shut behind them just as the echoing boots reached the hall outside. The chamber they entered was vast, filled with rows of strange machines. Some were broken, others still hummed with faint energy. At the far end, a huge window looked out onto the ruins above, and beyond that, the sky was dark with a slow-moving storm. Coral stepped toward one of the machines. "What is this place?" "A command station," the soldier answered. "From the last days of the war." Veyrin frowned. "The war from the recording?" The soldier finally turned to face them fully. "The war from your future." They stared at him in silence. Sirah shook her head. "That's impossible. Humanity hasn't fought in centuries. The galactic peace has held." "It has not." The soldier cut in. "It only sleeps. Just as I did. Just as they do." He pointed toward the sealed door, where faint thuds could now be heard, the sound of fists or weapons striking metal. The historian's stomachs tightened. The soldier stepped toward a console and activated it. The screen came to life, showing tactical maps of the ruins. Red dots pulsed across the display. Thousands of them. They will keep coming, he said. They will not stop until every intruder is dead or gone. Coral's voice was barely steady. Why us? We've done nothing. You stepped onto this world, the soldier said. That is enough. You woke the memory of war. The thudding on the door grew louder, sharper, now accompanied by a deep metallic screech. Something was cutting through. Sirah's scanner blared a warning. They're breaching. The soldier looked at them with a cold, steady gaze. If you want to survive, you must decide. Leave now and never return. Or see the truth of why this place exists. Veyrin hesitated. What truth? The soldier didn't answer. Instead, he touched the console, and the floor beneath them began to shake. A section of the chamber shifted, revealing a spiral stairway descending into darkness. The soldier pointed down. Follow, and do not stop, no matter what you hear. Fuddery. Sound of tearing metal filled the air. The door was almost gone. Without another word, they followed the soldier into the stairway. The air grew colder the deeper they went, and strange whispers began to echo around them. Some were human voices, others were not. Coral's breathing grew fast. They sound close. They are, the soldier said, but they are only shadows, for now. Far above them, a final crash rang out. The door had fallen. The marching dead were inside. The soldier didn't look back. If they reach us before we reach the core, none of you will leave this planet alive, and in the darkness below, a new sound began. Not marching, but the deep, steady heartbeat of something massive waking up. The stairway twisted downward for what felt like forever. The air was heavy, filled with a faint metallic taste. The deeper they went, the louder the heartbeat became. Slow, deep, and powerful. Sirah tried not to think about what could make such a sound. It's not alive, is it? She whispered. The soldier didn't turn. Not in the way you think. The walls here were not stone or metal. They were something else, smooth, black, and faintly warm, as if the material itself was breathing. Faint lights pulsed along its surface, perfectly in time with the heartbeat. Coral's skin crawled. This place feels wrong. Wrong? The soldier's voice was calm, almost cold. This place is the only reason your galaxy still exists. Veyrin frowned. You keep saying that. Why? What is this heart you're taking us to? The soldier didn't answer right away. He stopped at a massive sealed gate deep underground. Its surface shimmered with strange symbols that none of them recognized. Slowly, he pressed his palm against it. The gate responded, lights flaring across its surface. With a deep groan, it slid open. The room beyond took their breath away. It was enormous, a hollow sphere, its walls covered in vast networks of glowing lines. At the very center floated a machine unlike anything they had ever seen. It wasn't built from recognizable metal or circuits. It was like a living thing made of light and steel, its shape constantly shifting. And it was alive. Not alive like a creature, but alive like a storm or a star. The heartbeat they had been hearing came from it. This, the soldier said, stepping inside, is the heart. Sirah stared, her voice barely a whisper. What does it do? It remembers, the soldier said. Coral blinked. Remembers? What? Every war, the soldier replied. Every battle humanity has ever fought, every enemy, every strategy, every loss, every victory. It stores them, replays them, and when the time comes, it teaches them. Veyrin's stomach tightened. Teaches who? The soldier turned, his head slightly, his eyes reflecting the heart's light. Whoever holds the line next. The meaning hit them slowly. This wasn't just a machine. It was a weapon, a teacher, a commander. It could pass on the skill and instinct of every human warrior that had ever lived. Coral's voice shook. You said this war is from our future. Are you saying this heart will fight it? No, the soldier said. You will. Before they could reply, the walls of the chamber trembled. Distant echoes, the sound of the marching dead, drifted down from above. They had found the stairway. The soldier moved toward the heart. They are coming for it. If they take the heart, they will learn what we know. And then, nothing in the galaxy will stop them. Sira stepped forward. Then we destroy it. The soldier's eyes went hard. Destroying it would be worse. Without it, you will be blind when the war begins. Billions will die before you even understand who you are fighting. The glowing lines along the chamber walls shifted suddenly, changing into images. They saw flashes of battles, ships exploding in black space, human fleets breaking alien armadas, soldiers in armor charging across burning fields. But then the images changed. They saw a massive alien fleet unlike anything in the councils. Records. Ships shaped like blades, with energy that seemed to burn reality itself. Whole planets were torn apart in seconds. This, the soldier said quietly, is what comes next. Coriel took a step back. We've never seen them before. You will, the soldier replied. Sooner than you think. The pounding of boots was now closer. Sierra's scanner lit up with hundreds of red dots descending through the tunnels. We don't have time, the soldier said. If you want the truth, take your place by the heart. It will show you everything. If not, run now. The historians exchanged a quick, terrified look. None of them moved toward the exit. The soldier nodded once. Then stand still. He touched the heart. In an instant, the room exploded with light. Images, sounds, and feelings poured into them all at once. The scream of engines, the weight of a rifle, the endless silence of space before battle. They felt fear, rage, and victory, all tangled together, and somewhere in that storm of memories, they saw themselves, not as historians, but as soldiers. When the light faded, the pounding of boots was at the chamber door. The soldier drew his weapon. Now, he said, you fight. The chamber doors shook under the pounding of hundreds of boots. Dust rained from the ceiling, and the heartbeat of the heart grew faster, as if it too knew the enemy was close. Sira gripped her weapon. She had never held one before today, but her hands moved with calm skill. She knew how to load it, aim it, and fire it. Not because she had trained, but because the heart had shown her. Coriel stood beside her, his stance steady. The man who had once been afraid to leave his desk now looked like a veteran soldier. Veyron checked the power cells on his rifle with quick, precise movements. None of them spoke. They didn't need to. The soldier watched them with quiet approval. They will break through in seconds, he said. Hold the line. No matter what happens, the heart must survive. The doors split open with a deafening crack. The first wave of the marching dead stormed inside, their eyes glowing with cold light, their armor burned and blackened from battles long past. Fire! The soldier shouted. The chamber exploded with sound. Laser bursts and kinetic rounds tore through the air. The historians, no, the soldiers they had become, moved as one. They aimed for weak spots without thinking, switching positions to cover each other, never missing a beat. The enemy fell, but more poured in, climbing over the bodies of their own fallen. A blade-armed corpse lunged at Sira, but she dropped to one knee and fired upward into its skull, the shot perfect and clean. Corel used his rifle as a spear to knock another back before blasting it apart. Varen hurled a thermal charge that lit up the gate in a storm of fire. Still they came. The soldier fought like a living weapon, his every shot precise, his movements unstoppable. But even he knew they couldn't hold forever. "Sirrah!" he shouted. "Seal the auxiliary gates!" She sprinted across the chamber, sliding into place behind a console. Her fingers moved over the controls like she had done it 1,000 times. Massive slabs of black metal dropped from the ceiling, sealing 2 of the side passages. The sound of pounding fists echoed from the other side. "They're learning!" Varen yelled. "They're trying to flank us!" The soldier's eyes narrowed. "Not today." He slammed a control on his wrist. From deep within the walls, hidden defenses awoke. Turrets of ancient design, firing streams of bright energy that tore through the enemy ranks. The room was filled with the smell of burning metal and ozone. Minutes felt like hours. The heart's glow pulsed faster, as if it was feeding their will to fight. The enemy numbers finally began to thin. Then the last one fell, crumpling to the floor with a hollow clang. Silence filled the chamber, broken only by the slow, steady heartbeat of the heart. The soldier lowered his weapon. "It is done. For now." Sierra's hands shook, not from fear but from the rush of battle. She looked at the others. They were breathing hard, their armor scorched, but their eyes burned with something new. Resolve. Coril looked at the heart. "What happens now?" The soldier stepped closer to it. "Now, you remember. You take what you have learned, and you carry it into your time. Because this is not just a fight from the past or the future. It is the same war, always waiting." The heart's light flared again, and the chamber walls shifted. In front of them appeared a holographic scene. The same one the aliens in. The council had been watching. It was them, fighting side by side, holding the line against impossible odds. Only now the historians understood. It wasn't just a recording of some old battle. It was the first page of a history that had not yet happened. A warning to anyone who thought humanity could be broken. The soldier's voice was steady. "When they see this, they will think it is just a story. But one day, they will learn they were watching history." The heart pulsed once more, and the recording ended. Far away, in a quiet council chamber, alien diplomats sat frozen, staring at the final frame. None of them spoke. Some felt fear, some felt doubt, but none could shake the thought that the humans were not telling the whole truth, because deep inside, they all knew. This was only the beginning. The chamber was quiet now, but the feeling of the battle still lingered in the air. The smell of burned metal and scorched stone hung heavy. Sierra, Coril, and Varen stood near the heart, their breathing still rough, their weapons still warm. The soldier walked to the control dais, his boots echoing across the floor. "It is not enough that we fought," he said, his voice calm but sharp. "Others must see. Others must know." He placed his hand on the heart. Its light flared, and the recording of their battle began to spread, not just through the chamber, but beyond. Invisible streams of data shot into the void, carried on hidden channels older than the council itself. Sierra frowned. "Where is it going?" "To every world that needs to remember," the soldier replied, "and to every enemy that needs to fear." In distant star systems, ancient relay stations awoke for the first time in centuries. Rusted antennae groaned as they turned, catching the signal. Screens lit up in forgotten bunkers. Entire colonies, long cut off from human contact, suddenly saw the recording. On one mining world, a young boy stared at the hologram of the humans standing against the enemy, his hands clenched into fists. "They're still out there," he whispered to himself. In a crowded alien marketplace, traders stopped mid-bargain as the image of the battle appeared on every screen. Some laughed nervously, some whispered in fear. A few turned away quickly, as if looking at it too long would bring the humans to their door. Back in the council chamber, the diplomats had not moved. One finally spoke. "Is this propaganda?" he asked, his voice trembling. Another shook his head. "If it is, then it is the most dangerous kind, the kind that feels true." In the chamber with the heart, Vayreen was staring at the soldier. "You planned this from the start, didn't you? The fight, the recording, all of it." The soldier gave a small nod. "History means nothing if it is hidden. It must live, and now it will." The heart's light dimmed slightly, as if it had given everything it had to send the message. The walls grew still again. Coral stepped forward. "So, we've just told the entire galaxy that humans can't be broken." The soldier's gaze hardened. "No. We've reminded them." From far above the chamber, faint echoes of distant engines could be heard. The soldier looked up sharply. "They're coming again, but now they'll come faster, and with more fear." Sira tightened her grip on her weapon. "Then we'll be ready." The soldier's mouth curved into the faintest smile. "Yes, because now they know what they're walking into." Far away, the message kept spreading. Unstoppable, undeniable. And in every place it appeared, it carried the same unspoken warning. When humanity stands, the war is never over, and you will be in it too. The air inside the heart's chamber grew colder. The ground trembled under their feet. Somewhere far, above, something huge entered the atmosphere. Sira looked up. "They're here." Coral's eyes narrowed. "How many?" The soldier didn't look at her. He kept his gaze fixed on the ceiling. "More than last time. Enough to make sure we—" "Don't leave!" The heart's fading light began to pulse again, as if sensing the danger. Outside, the sky over the ruins turned black with the shapes of enemy warships. Their engines roared like thunder, shaking the walls. Vayreen gripped his weapon. "We can't win against this many." The soldier finally turned to them, his voice calm but certain. "We don't have to win here. We just have to make sure the galaxy remembers." Suddenly, a deep rumble came from beyond the mountains. The ground split, and fire erupted into the sky. A massive shadow rose from the earth, metal, armored, and impossibly large. It was a ship, but not like any the aliens had ever seen. Its black hull bore an old human emblem, faded but still clear. Coral's mouth fell open. "That's impossible. Those ships were all destroyed." The soldier's eyes flashed. "Not all of them." The colossal warship rose higher, weapons unfolding like the wings of some ancient predator. Its cannons glowed red, charging. Above them, the enemy fleet hesitated for the first time. Then, the warship spoke, a voice booming through the sky. "This is UNS Iron Will. You have invaded human ground. You will not leave." The enemy fired first, beams of light cutting through the clouds. The Iron Will returned fire. The first blast tore through an entire enemy battleship, breaking it in half. The second shot scattered the rest, forcing them into evasive maneuvers. Inside the chamber, the heart recorded everything, every shot, every explosion, every scream. The soldier turned to Sira, Coral, and Vayreen. The message was only the beginning. This is the proof. The battle above was pure chaos. Enemy ships fell like burning meteors, crashing into the mountains. But the Iron Will kept moving, its armor holding, its weapons relentless. On distant worlds, the message kept playing, now with new footage. Billions watched as the warship cut through the enemy, unstoppable. On some planets, people cheered. On others, they fell silent in fear. The enemy fleet began to retreat, engines flaring as they fled into the black. The warship did not follow. Instead, it hovered above the ruins, its shadow covering the heart's chamber. The soldier looked up at it, his voice quiet but filled with something deeper than victory. "Now they know. Humanity is not gone. And if they come again..." He Let the words hang in the air. Sira finished for him. They'll regret it. The heart pulsed one last time before going dark, its task complete. Across the galaxy, the story was now alive. A story of a fight no one thought could happen, and a warning no one could forget. And somewhere, far away, other human warships began to wake. Humanity had returned.